We are all angels who only have one wing. All angels searching for each other. All angels who cannot reach the sky. 'Cause we need each other to fly. Do you know there are angels in our midst? Can you hear them? Can you feel them?
They're all around you, with you every day. Do you see them, or do you look the other way?
It's that man that I forgot to kiss as I hurried out the door. Or that stranger that said hello that I ignored. They are angels. They are angels. We are angels. We are all angels who only have one wing. All angels searching for each other. All angels who cannot reach the sky. 'Cause we need each other to fly. My life gets so busy, time goes by so fast. I rush through the day trying to make each moment last. But when I take the time to look around, I see sweet angels smiling back at me. Everywhere at any time I need to open up my eyes and see the beauty that surrounds me. Now I realize we are angels. We are angels. We are angels. We are all angels who only have one wing. All angels searching for each other. All angels who cannot reach the sky. 'Cause we need each other to fly.
Good morning and welcome to Unity of the Blue Ridge this morning. I know you saw in the pictures there's a lot going on around here. We're getting really excited about the raising the roof and the construction. Also, just a reminder for any of you that are in the Western North Carolina area, next week we will be having an outdoor service at 10 a.m. You bring your own chair, wear your mask, and we have circles where you can spread out and safely distance to enjoy a service on the lawn, 10 a.m. And then we'll also be right here for live streaming at 11 a.m. next Sunday as well. We always like to begin our time together with lighting this candle. To me, it's just a beautiful representation how that there are many flames that are representations of the one light. And so wherever you are, wherever I am, wherever we are, our light is a reflection of that one light. I invite you this morning to join me in an opening prayer. As we turn our awareness within, we do so in that spirit of knowing that we are always connected, that our life is an expression of the one life, that our very vitality is an expression of the one life force, that which we call God. And so we open to recognizing that wherever we are, wherever we stand, we are that sacred chalice. We are holy ground, and we are standing on holy ground. We give thanks for this day, for the opportunity to be blessed and to be a blessing. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. You're in for a real treat today. I've got a dear friend and colleague, Reverend Paulette Pipe, who's going to be joining us, and I'll tell you just a little bit about her in just a few minutes. But first, Rhoda Weaver. She's a part of our community, and a song she did a while back that's titled, "It's Been a Long Time Coming." Enjoy this by Rhoda Weaver.
I was born by the river in a little tent, oh, just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me, don't hang around. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother, I say, brother, help me please. He winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa! There have been times that I thought I couldn't last for long. Now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will. And it's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes, it will.
Yeah, Rhoda Weaver, it's been a long time coming, but we know change is coming. Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. I mentioned earlier we've got a real treat. I've got a friend and colleague, Reverend Paulette Pike, joining us today from Lee Summit, Missouri. I met Paulette when I was at Unity Village in Ministerial School, and she's become a dear friend. And if once you hear her and experience her, you probably will fall in love. She just has this deep sense of mindfulness about her. And one of the first stories I remember about Paulette, when she was born and raised in London, England. And when she first came to the United States, she did so to work for Unity. As a matter of fact, she was the spiritual director for Unity in the United Kingdom. And then she moved to Unity Village out in Missouri to run the retreat department. After that, she started touching the Stillness Ministries, which she still does today. She has a podcast. It's a wonderful podcast you can tune in, Touching the Stillness with Paulette Pipe, P-I-P-E. And she leads retreats and speaks and holds that sacred space for many people. But when Paulette first moved, she had spent some time at Plum Village with Thich Nhat Hanh. And Paulette's a really meditative person, and if you know anything about Plum Village, periodically there's a chime, and when there's a chime, it means you stop and you take a breath. You remember that you're right here, right now. It's a mindfulness reminder. So when Paulette first moved to the Kansas City area, she went to get groceries, and she went into a Trader Joe's. And occasionally they would make this chime sound, and Paulette would stop, and she'd do a mindfulness breath. And when she was checking out, she told the clerk, she said, "It is so wonderful that you practice mindfulness in the grocery store." And the clerk said, "Well, what are you talking about?" Well, if you know anything about Trader Joe's, they chime that chime when somebody leaves a tip. And so every time somebody was leaving a tip and they were making a chime, she thought it was a mindfulness bell. But I love that because, there's so many things that we can put into practice. Well, again, Paulette, she's a wonderful storyteller, teacher, and she's joining us today from Lee Summit, Missouri. Would you welcome Paulette Pipe?
Thank you, Darlene. That was a lovely introduction. I really appreciate it. And hello to you, Unity of Blue Ridge. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really glad that we got to make this happen. My talk today is entitled Standing on Holy Ground. Standing on Holy Ground. I tell stories a lot, and hearing myself tell these stories of pivotal things in my life, realize I'm sort of a reluctant prophet. Because when it's something big, I usually, not all the time, but sometimes I say no before I say yes. Reluctant prophet. I am a meditation teacher, as you've heard. Most meditation teachers have gone to India at some point or want to go to India. Not me. I've had many invitations, but it's like, no. I used to joke that if there was a past life, I probably went to or lived in India and I'm done, I don't need to go back. But it just didn't resonate with me. Or so I thought, until last year, I got an invitation from an organization, a not-for-profit organization called Service Space. And I knew the founder, Nipun Mehta, and he was inviting me to join a group of 40 people to come to Ahmedabad in India for a Gandhi 3.0 retreat. And when I opened that email in my inbox, every part of my body resonated with a resounding yes. Fast forward to January, everything fell into place, and I arrive in India for this 10-day retreat that begins with, well, it's 10 days altogether, but for the first 5 days was an immersion program so that we could get over our jet lag and see some of the sights. And one of those sites included visiting the Gandhi Ashram. So this Gandhi Ashram is, it's like a museum itself, It's not residential anymore, but it's where Gandhi had this community, and it includes a prayer garden where he and his ashram community would go twice a day to pray. So when we got to the ashram, we were split up into groups because with so many of us there, we were split up into smaller groups, and a volunteer who knew the ashram very well would lead the group around to the different cottages and the different places and tell us the history and the story behind it. And I was in the group with Nemo. Now, I'm a bit of a fangirl because I play Nemo's music on my podcast, my Touching the Stillness podcast. So I was really excited to be in his group. So everywhere we went, before we left that place, after we'd heard the history and the information about the place we were visiting, he would invite us to just pause for a minute of silence. And we did that everywhere. And then we got to what's called the heart of the ashram, which was Gandhi's actual residential home. And when we went in there, there was already a group in there. They were meditating, and he showed us around. But I went back outside because everywhere you go in India, when you go inside, you take your shoes off. And in this heart of the ashram residence was this concrete slab. It was like slate, and it was so cold that I decided, oh no, I need to go outside and put my shoes back on and warm up a bit. So I did that. I was outside with one of my colleagues, and then Nemo called us back in. When that meditating group had left, he called us back in for a meditation of our own. And I don't know how long he had set the timer for. It was going to be a bit longer than the minute that we had been doing everywhere else. But I remember kvetching, you know, it's like, oh, it's so cold. And I had to go outside and put my shoes on, and now we're going to have to sit on this cold floor. Moan, moan, moan. So I took off my scarf and laid it on the floor and sat down. And no sooner had I sat down, closed my eyes, and began to breathe deeply into the moment, I had a vision. Is it a vision if you're meditating and you're awake? Because I know I didn't fall asleep because it was just a few breaths into the meditation. And as I closed my eyes and breathed, I had this sense that the entire space filled up with energy, like the energy of pure beings. And they were behind me. I could feel them surrounding me where I sat with my back to the Gandhi spinning wheel. And I just felt it fill up with energy as if there were other people in the room in addition to our very small group. And then I saw this image of Gandhi coming towards me. Not the emaciated Gandhi that we see in the pictures, but he was dressed in white and he had the glasses on and he had his stick, and he came towards me. And he took me by the elbow, just like between my elbow and my wrist, and asked me to stand up. And it's like, am I making this up? Am I hallucinating? Then I heard him say again, stand up. Stand up, look behind you, look at the support you have behind you. And no sooner had this happened than the timer went off and the meditation was over. I was just shaking and I was thinking, oh my gosh, did I make this up? Is this wishful thinking? What's going on? And I need to go center myself. I need a sign. I need to center myself and I need a sign to know if I made this up or if this is real. So I decided that even though we were scheduled to go into the prayer garden in the next few moments, that I would go ahead and just sit in the garden and just be at peace and try to make sense of what just happened. As I said, it was more like a gravelly area. There was no plants or flowers or anything in there, but it was just this space, this consecrated space with really palpable, viable prayer energy after all these years. So anyway, I went and I sat on one of the ledges, and as soon as I sat down, I broke into tears and I started to cry, ugly tears. So there's tears are streaming, my nose is running. So I reached for my pocketbook to get out a Kleenex. And as I do so, I see in the gravel the tiniest little pebble with an edge sticking up. And I looked at it through the tears and I thought, no. So I reached for it and I picked it up. And you know what it was? It was the tiniest little pebble, 3 sides. And any way you turned it, it was a heart. And here it is. It's a heart, any way you turn it. So then I was just incredulous, because we just came from the heart of the ashram and I was asking for a sign, and here in all that gravel, this tiny little thing in all that stone gets my attention. So I took a breath, and right from there, the group of us went over next door to another adjacent building for lunch. And I was just so moved and so, I don't know, still feeling the energy of that vision. I didn't want to socialize with the rest of the group, so I went off by myself. In fact, to eat, I sat with a couple of people who had nominated to be in silence that day because it was a Monday and Gandhi was usually in the silence every Monday. So I joined their table so then no one would talk to me either. when the meal was over, I went aside and sat in this other prayer garden area and just hung out there by myself. And one of the volunteers came over, Kishan, to sit with me because he could see that I had removed myself from the group and it wasn't like me. So he just came to check in. So I said, you know, something happened when we were at the Gandhi ashram, and I really don't want to talk about it right now, but it really moved me, and I don't know what to do with it, but I don't want to talk about it. And he said, that's fine. And we just carried on with some small talk. But then my soul stirred, and it was like, you need to tell him, you need to tell him. I was also guided that I needed to tell Nipun, who was our host, Nipun Mehta, but he wasn't with the group at the ashram, but I knew that I needed to tell him this when I got back. But here I was sitting with Kishan, and I was guided that I needed to tell him also. So I shared with him what happened in the ashram with the vision, and then I showed him my pebble. And he said, oh my goodness, look at this. And he got out his phone and he scrolled through the phone and came across some pictures. Now Kishan is a native of Ahmedabad, and he lives across the street from the Gandhi ashram. He goes there every day with his daughter and his wife. So he said that. He said, I go to the ashram every day, and yet I have never seen this. And the picture he showed me was of a tree stump that had just recently, the tree had recently been cut down. And all the rings that show the age of that tree formed the shape of a heart. So there was my clue number 2, if I was looking for a sign. But what I wanted to impress on you today is that idea of stand up. You see, when I went back to the retreat center and I tracked down Nipun because I had been guided very strongly that I needed to tell him, he too was incredulous about the story and the clues and my pebble. And he said, that is amazing, but maybe it's not just for you. Maybe that message isn't just for you. Maybe it's for our community. Maybe you need to share it. Again, I was reluctant. I don't want people to think I'm woo-woo or weird or strange. They don't know me. These are high-profile people that I've been invited to India with, you know, in the tech area and the finance and spiritual leaders. I can't go up there and tell them that I saw Gandhi in an ashram. But I did share that message, and I haven't stopped sharing it since. This message to stand up, because I do think it's for all of us. Now, this is happening in January, and then everything that's transpired since with the pandemic and with the protests and with Black Lives Matter and gearing up for, here in America, gearing up for our elections in November. I feel like we're being called to stand up. And sometimes when we're in spiritual community, the thing we want to do is go inward. We want to retreat inward and not be tainted, if you will, by what's happening around us. So when you hear me say the words stand up, where does your mind go? Does it go to that place that says, oh no, I'm not radical. I'm not getting involved. Whatever is going on out there is too political for me, and I don't want anything to disturb my beautiful spiritual equilibrium. Is that where we go? Do we close people off out of our heart, out of our community because they don't sound like us, look like us, think like us? We may not be aware of it, but we are being called to stand up for all. This is the time. To stand up calls for courage, and the word courage comes from the Latin heart. And here I was just talking about the heart of the ashram. Here we are being asked to stand up and have courage. There are different kinds of courage. Remember the story of Moses? When he was at the burning bush, he was asked to remove his shoes because the place where he stood was holy ground. And the courage he was being asked to call forth or to tap into was spiritual courage. And even moral courage, where he needed to stand up for a group of people. But he went to that place like, yeah, they might be my people, but I've never met them. I don't know them. I'm not going to put my life on the line for them. He was a reluctant prophet. He was being called to stand up for these people who were being unfairly treated, ostracized, enslaved. And at first he was saying, no, don't send me, send Aaron. And yet he was standing on holy ground, being given this holy assignment. Do you know that right where you stand is holy ground, and you too are being given this assignment to stand? So as I said, there are different kinds of courage. I mentioned moral courage. Moral courage is where we're being asked to do the right thing. We're being asked to do the right thing even if it's not popular or others may disapprove. We stand up anyway. There's also social courage, where we're being asked to take the risk of being embarrassed or ostracized because we're taking a stand. But we stand anyway, especially if it's on the side of justice, if it's on the side of right, if it's on the side of kindness. And then there's the spiritual courage that I mentioned that is fueled by our faith, where we are grappling around some action that we're being asked to take. It calls for spiritual courage. And then there's emotional courage, where we have to tap into deep emotional feelings that we may not want to face. We may want to bury our head, bat those emotions away and pretend that they don't exist, because we don't want to be with the discomfort or what feels negative. And of course, there's also intellectual courage, where we're being asked to speak into discussions and debates that we don't ordinarily want to get involved in. But we are being called to stand up, to be courageous, to speak up, to speak out, to open our hearts and let others in, not just to our heart space, but even to our spiritual community space. I came across this, and it comes from Judith Orloff. I've been using her book, Thriving as an Empath, 365 Days of Self-Care for Sensitive People, and I want to share it with you. It's Cultivate Courage. Cultivate Courage. And the reading says, courage neutralizes fear. It imparts the clarity and strength you need to surmount obstacles. Courage puts you intuitively in the zone and in touch with greatness. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're without fear, but rather that you feel the fear and proceed anyway. To conjure courage, it helps to remember brave people whom we admire. She says, I focus on Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Their courage fortifies me. She says, I agree with music icon Joni Mitchell when she says she's drawn to people who aren't afraid. You too can identify people from whom you gain strength. Reflect on a situation in which you were courageous. Perhaps you followed your intuition and chose a job that intrigued you despite others' opinion. Or you stood up for a friend in need. Maybe you just got yourself to go to work when you were feeling down. All courageous acts matter. Keep cultivating courage and rejecting fear. Spirit is always there to support you. Keep cultivating courage and rejecting fear. Spirit is always there to support you. So I mentioned just now Moses. Let's fast forward to Moses having rescued the people of Israel from Pharaoh. He's now standing with them at the edge of the Red Sea. And they're quivering in their boots, the people of Israel, because behind them is Pharaoh's horse-drawn chariots chasing behind them, gaining on them, and in front of them is the sea. So they're going to die either way, certain death. Either they're going to be captured and taken back or die at the hands of Pharaoh's army, or they're going to drown in the sea. But the reluctant prophet has taken that big step, that step that once he was afraid of, but now he is standing up and standing in his power. And what does Moses say to them? What do you mean it's a bit muddy? Oh no, that's not right. That was on a birthday card. What he says to them is, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still and see or witness the salvation of the Lord. And this is right before he takes the staff that he has in his hand and lays it in front of the ocean, which parts and creates a path for them to walk through. There's a clue in that. We, when we are being called into these big acts or small acts of courage where we stand up for something so we don't fall for anything, with that comes the invitation to be still. To be still and know, to be still and witness, to stand still and wait for the next act, the next step to be revealed. Reject the fear, cultivate courage, and trust that the Spirit of God is on hand to support us through whatever it is we are being called to stand up to, stand up for, stand upon. If we wish to see, feel, experience, and express more compassion, stand compassionately on the right side of equality, justice, inclusivity. Support those who have no voice. Stand up for those who have no voice. Stand up and remember that wherever you stand is holy ground. Namaste. And so I'd like to now take this idea into our time of meditation. And for the first part of our meditation, I am inviting us to stand up. Stand up. So wherever you are now, just take a moment, put down whatever you had in your hands or your lap, stand up and just shimmy around and get comfortable. Plant your feet firmly on the ground where you can feel all sides of your feet making contact. Soften your knees, tuck your pelvis forward a little bit, your shoulders back, which will help to open and expand your heart and your chest. And then just breathe here. That area where you stand is holy. It is holy ground. So take a breath in and exhale. And if you're comfortable doing so, just close your eyes and feel into whatever you're feeling right now. The holy ground beneath you. The ground where you stand up with moral courage. Stand up with spiritual courage. Stand up with social courage. Stand up with emotional courage. Stand up with intellectual courage. Breathe in and breathe out. And remember just how courageous you are, and that you do not have to stand alone or stand up unsupported. Everything you need is provided, is around you, is available for you. Just be still. Stand still. See, know, and experience the salvation of the Lord, that freedom, that conviction, that right idea, that right response. What is the invitation for you as you stand here on your patch of holy ground? What is being asked of you? Breathe in courage, breathe out fear. What one step is your soul calling you to take that hitherto you have been reluctant or resistant to adhering to? Breathe in courage. Exhale fear. Breathe into that invitation, no longer a reluctant prophet, but fortified in your conviction where you stand on holy ground. Let your soul remember this invitation that is just for you. Your soul knows. Let your soul remember as you breathe in courage. Exhale fear, for where you stand is holy ground. Take a breath in and exhale, and then just take a seat. Notice what you're feeling and where in your body you are feeling this sensation, this response. Continue to breathe deeply, breathing in courage, exhaling fear, as we become still and know, still and listen to witness the divine ideas that are calling us forth into sacred action. If your mind wanders, gently, without judgment or condemnation, with great gentle compassion, bring your attention back to the present, back to the breath, back to the mantra, time and again. Breathing in courage, exhaling fear. Cultivating courage, rejecting fear. Remember that as you stand, as you prepare to make that first step forward on the side of good, the place where you stand, the place where you wait, The place where you listen is holy ground. And so we begin our journey in consciousness back to this time and place. Aware again of our position in our environment. Our clothing around us. The furniture and furnishings in our space. The temperature of the air as it touches our skin. The sounds around us. The breath and the stillness moving through us. And then one more time, breathe in courage. Exhale fear. Consecrate the ground upon which you stand, for it is holy. And then bring your hands to prayer position. Take a breath here. Exhale and flutter your eyelids open. Grateful for this time to cultivate courage, reject fear, embrace Spirit's support on this holy ground. And so it is. Namaste. Again, thank you, Reverend Darlene, for this opportunity to be present here with your beautiful spiritual community. I look forward to the opportunity to meeting you all in person. And now I hand it back over to you.
Oh, my friend Paulette, thank you. Just as a way of putting me in this, right in the center of my being. I love that. Cultivating the courage. And, you know, that reminder that we are standing on holy ground. There's a beautiful song that says that we are standing on holy ground. So this week, I hope that you'll take that idea with you, that wherever you are standing, you are the embodiment of all that is. And you are standing as holy ground on holy ground. I want to thank you again for being with us. I want to thank you for your continued support, your cards, your letters. Also a reminder that next week at 10 o'clock, for any of you that can come out, we'll have an outdoor service, and then we'll have the live stream showing that at 11 o'clock for our live stream. So it's been wonderful to have you joining us today. We want to send you off with a song, another song by Rhoda Weaver that says, I've got a feeling everything's going to be all right. Rhoda Weaver and our Unity Band.
Y'all can clap. I got a feeling everything will be alright. Oh, I got a feeling everything's gonna be alright. Oh, I in my spirit. Everything's gonna be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Don't be discouraged. Everything's gonna be alright. Oh, don't be discouraged. Everything's gonna be alright. Oh, don't be discouraged. Everything's gonna be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Y'all get to help me now. Gonna be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Be alright. Gonna be alright.